KAMSI was a curious 12-year-old boy who lived in a small village surrounded by fields and hills. Every day he ran through the dirt paths, helped his mother carry water from the stream, and played with his friends under the large mango tree near the center of the village. KAMSI loved exploring, and even though the elders often warned the children not to wander too far, he could not resist the call of adventure. There was always something new to see, a rock that looked strange, a bird that sang differently, or a hidden trail that no one had noticed before. One sunny afternoon, while walking along the stream at the edge of the village, KAMSI noticed something unusual. The water sparkled more than usual, and a small rock near the bank seemed to glow with a soft light. Curious, he crouched down and brushed away the moss covering it. His eyes widened as he discovered a small piece of parchment folded neatly under the stone. It was a map, but not just any map. It glowed faintly, almost as if it were alive. The lines on the paper were drawn in golden ink, winding through strange symbols of trees, rivers, and mountains. At the center of the map was a large circle labeled Forest of Good and Evil. KAMSI's heart beat faster. He had heard stories about that forest since he was very young. The elders in the village spoke of it in whispers, saying it was both magical and dangerous. Some parts of the forest brought good fortune, helping travelers find wisdom or courage. Other areas were filled with traps, strange creatures, and illusions that could confuse anyone who entered. KAMSI had always been fascinated by these stories. He wanted to see it for himself, to discover the secrets hidden among the trees, to test his courage and cleverness. He held the map carefully in his hands, feeling the glow pulse gently against his fingers. He studied it, tracing the golden paths with his eyes. The trail seemed to start near the stream and wind deep into the forest. Small marks on the map hinted at challenges along the way, symbols of rivers to cross, shadows to avoid, and glowing trees that might offer help. KAMSI knew that following this path could be dangerous. Yet he felt a thrill that made him forget the warnings. He thought about telling someone, maybe his parents or his best friend Nuru, but something inside him urged him to go alone. This was his adventure, his moment to explore something no one else had seen. He folded the map carefully, placed it in the pocket of his worn shorts, and took a deep breath. The sun was bright, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves around him. KAMSI looked back at the village one last time. He could see the smoke rising from the chimneys, the women calling their children home, and the elders resting under the shade of the big mango tree. It all looked peaceful and safe, but KAMSI knew he was about to leave that safety behind. As he approached the forest, the trees became taller and denser. Their branches reached out like arms, casting shadows that danced on the ground. The air smelled different here, a mixture of earth, flowers, and something strange he could not name. KAMSI's legs moved quickly, almost running now, but he reminded himself to be careful. He stepped over roots and small stones, feeling the uneven earth beneath his feet. Every sound, the chirping of birds, the rustle of leaves, the distant cry of an animal, made him both excited and alert. The forest seemed alive, almost as if it were watching him. Leaves shivered even when the wind did not blow, and shadows shifted with a life of their own. KAMSI remembered the stories. Some parts of the forest could test your heart, showing visions of fear or temptation to see how you reacted. He took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I have to be brave," he whispered to himself. "I have to think clearly. And I have to be kind if anything needs my help." He felt a strange connection to the forest, like it was inviting him in while also warning him to be careful. Walking deeper, KAMSI noticed small signs along the path that matched the map. A stream gurgled across his path, and golden flowers grew along its bank. He could see a fallen tree that might serve as a bridge over the water. Following the map's guidance, he carefully crossed the stream, balancing on the smooth trunk while holding the map in his other hand. Each step he took made him feel more confident. He was not just walking into the forest, he was learning how to move carefully, how to pay attention, and how to trust himself. After a while he came to a small clearing. Sunlight poured down in beams, making the grass look like it was sprinkled with gold. In the center of the clearing was a stone shaped like a seat, smooth and warm from the sun. KAMSI sat down for a moment, feeling the excitement and nervousness inside him mixed together. He looked at the map again and noticed that the next part of the path seemed to lead to a darker section of the forest. The trees there were taller, older, and their branches blocked most of the sunlight. He felt a shiver run down his spine, but he also felt ready. He was determined to see what lay ahead, to face whatever challenges the forest would place in front of him. As he stood up and continued walking, the forest grew quieter. Even the birds seemed to pause, and the wind became soft, almost like it was holding its breath. KAMSI noticed small footprints in the dirt, some that looked like animals and others that were harder to recognize. The forest seemed full of secrets, and KAMSI realized that he had entered a place where every sound and movement might be important. He remembered the elders' words, "The forest of good and evil tests the heart. Those who are brave and kind will find the way, but those who are selfish or careless may never return." He paused for a moment, thinking about his family, his friends, and the village he loved. He wanted to make them proud, but more than that, he wanted to be the kind of boy who could face challenges with courage and wisdom. He folded the map again, placing it back in his pocket, and whispered, "I will be careful. I will be brave. I will do my best." The path ahead was long, twisting between tall trees and overgrown vines. Shadows stretched in strange shapes, and the light seemed to move with him. KAMSI's heart beat faster, but he felt a sense of excitement stronger than fear. He knew that the adventure had truly begun. The forest of good and evil was alive, full of wonders, secrets, and dangers, and he was ready to discover them all. With each step, KAMSI felt himself changing. He was no longer just a boy from a small village. He was an explorer, a seeker, someone learning about courage, kindness, and cleverness in a place where every choice mattered. The forest whispered around him, inviting him deeper, challenging him, and promising lessons he would carry forever. And so, KAMSI stepped forward, eager, cautious, and ready to face the forest of good and evil. KAMSI had walked deeper into the forest for what felt like hours. The sunlight barely reached the forest floor now, and the air smelled earthy and sweet, with hints of flowers he did not recognize. Every sound seemed louder here, the crack of a twig under his foot, the rustle of leaves in the wind, the distant call of a bird he had never seen. He felt both excited and nervous. The map in his pocket glowed faintly, almost as if it was alive and guiding him forward, encouraging him to keep walking. As he turned a bend in the path, KAMSI noticed movement near a cluster of bushes. At first he thought it was a small animal, but then the creature stepped into the open. It was a fox, but unlike any fox KAMSI had ever seen. Its fur was sleek and golden, and its eyes shone like polished amber. The fox looked at KAMSI without fear, tilting its head as if studying him. KAMSI froze for a moment, unsure if he should move closer or stay still. The fox spoke in a soft, clear voice, surprising KAMSI. "Hello boy," it said. "I am Zina." KAMSI blinked. You can talk?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. Zina's golden eyes glowed a little brighter. "Yes, I can speak. And I am here to guide you if you are willing to listen." KAMSI took a cautious step forward, his heart beating fast. He had expected the forest to be magical, but he had never imagined meeting a talking fox. Zina moved gracefully around KAMSI, circling him once before sitting down. "This forest is alive," she said. "It tests everyone who enters. Some paths bring good fortune and some paths bring danger. Every choice you make, every step you take will decide your journey. Do you understand?" KAMSI nodded, though he felt a shiver of fear. He had always loved adventures, but this was different. This was not just about finding a hidden treasure or exploring new paths. It was about his heart, his courage, and his kindness. I think I understand," KAMSI said, holding the glowing map tightly in his hand. "I have to be careful and I have to make the right choices." Zina's tail swished gently. "Yes. The forest can show you visions, create illusions, and even tempt you with things you desire. If your heart is true, you will pass safely. If it is selfish or careless, the forest may lead you into danger. Are you ready to continue?" KAMSI swallowed hard and took a deep breath. "I am ready," he said, his voice gaining confidence. Zina nodded and began to walk a few steps ahead. "Follow me," she said. "But remember, do not rush. Watch, listen, and think before you act. The forest rewards those who are patient and kind." KAMSI followed, his eyes scanning the trees and the path. The forest seemed even more alive now. The leaves shimmered in the dim light, the shadows moved in strange patterns, and every sound felt like it carried a message. KAMSI realized that he had to pay attention to everything. The smallest detail could be important. As they walked, KAMSI noticed a small clearing with a pile of shiny stones. They sparkled in the faint light, and KAMSI felt a sudden urge to take one. He remembered Zina's warning and hesitated. Just as his hand reached for a stone, Zina spoke. "Remember boy, the forest watches your intentions. Do you take for yourself without need, or do you respect what is not yours?" KAMSI pulled back his hand and stepped away. I won't take it," he said. "It's not mine." Zina's eyes glowed warmly. "Good. That choice shows a good heart. The forest will guide you safely because you act with care." They continued along the winding path. KAMSI saw streams, fallen logs, and strange glowing mushrooms that lit the dark corners of the forest. Sometimes the path split into two, and KAMSI had to make choices quickly. Xena would watch him quietly, offering a nod or a gentle look to guide him. At one point, KAMSI saw a small rabbit trapped under a fallen branch. He rushed to help, lifting the branch carefully. The rabbit hopped away and KAMSI smiled, feeling proud. "Every act of kindness counts," Xena said. "Even small ones. Never forget that." Hours passed and KAMSI began to feel tired. The forest seemed endless and he wondered if he would ever reach the heart of it. But Xena reminded him to stay focused. "The forest will test you more," she said. "You will face challenges that are not just physical but of the mind and heart. Be brave, stay honest, and keep a kind heart. That is the key to moving forward." KAMSI nodded, feeling both nervous and determined. He knew the real adventure had just begun. As the sun began to set, the forest grew darker, and the shadows stretched long across the path. KAMSI felt a small shiver run down his spine. He could see strange shapes moving in the distance and he felt his heart beat faster. Xena noticed and said softly, "Do not be afraid. Fear is natural, but courage comes from facing what scares you. Keep your heart steady, and the forest will reward you." KAMSI took a deep breath, steadying himself. He felt a strange confidence growing inside him. He realized that being brave did not mean never feeling fear. It meant moving forward despite it. Soon they reached a small river. The water sparkled under the fading light, and a narrow bridge of stone and roots stretched across it. KAMSI's first instinct was to rush across, but he remembered Xena's words. "Watch, think, and choose carefully," she reminded him. KAMSI looked around, noticing the uneven stones and the slippery moss. He stepped carefully, placing each foot slowly and testing the ground before moving forward. When he reached the other side safely, he felt a sense of pride. He was learning that the forest was not only about facing creatures or obstacles. It was about thinking, observing, and acting with care. As night fell, the forest became quiet, almost as if it were holding its breath. The glow from the map in KAMSI's pocket lit the path ahead, but he realized that he would soon need more than just the map. He needed patience, kindness, and courage to continue. Xena stopped and looked at him. "You have done well today," she said. "Remember, the forest rewards those who are good in heart. Keep your mind clear, your heart true, and your spirit strong. Tomorrow will bring new challenges and your choices will matter even more." KAMSI nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had entered the forest of good and evil as a curious boy, but he was learning that this forest was more than a place of magic. It was a place of lessons. Every step, every decision, and every act of kindness would shape his journey. He felt ready for what lay ahead, even if he did not yet know the challenges that awaited him. As he settled near a large tree to rest for the night, KAMSI thought about all he had seen. The glowing map, the strange paths, the golden-eyed fox, the shimmering stones, and the trapped rabbit. All of it had taught him that bravery and kindness were more important than speed or selfishness. He closed his eyes, letting the sounds of the forest surround him, and whispered, "I will be brave. I will be kind. I will do my best." And with that thought, KAMSI drifted into a light sleep, the glow of the map faintly lighting the forest floor, and Xena curled nearby, keeping watch. The forest was alive, and KAMSI was learning that every day here would bring lessons, tests, and opportunities to grow. He was ready for the adventure, ready to face the forest of good and evil with a true heart. KAMSI walked deeper into the forest of good and evil, guided by the soft glow of his map and the careful footsteps of Xena, the golden-eyed fox. The trees grew taller and closer together, their branches twisting overhead to form a natural roof. The sunlight that had danced across the forest floor earlier in the day now barely reached him, filtering through the leaves in faint beams. Every sound seemed louder, the chirping of birds, the rustle of leaves, and the soft hum of insects. The forest was alive, and KAMSI felt it watching him, testing him with every step. After walking for what seemed like hours, he came to a sparkling river that cut across the forest path. The water glimmered like liquid diamonds, reflecting the faint light of the fading sun. It looked calm, but KAMSI noticed that the current was strong near the center. He could see smooth stones jutting out from the river, forming a narrow path, but he also sensed that crossing might be tricky. Before he could think further, a shadow fell across the river. A figure appeared on the far side of the narrow bridge formed by roots and stones. The figure was tall, dark, and shrouded in shadow. Its eyes glimmered faintly, watching KAMSI with a strange intensity. "Stop," the figure said in a deep, echoing voice. "Only those who are worthy may cross this bridge." KAMSI froze, his heart beating faster. He had heard the elders say that the forest tested not only courage but also the heart. This must be one of those tests. He stepped closer to the riverbank and noticed a small bird flailing in the water. It had been caught in a whirlpool near the river's edge, struggling to stay afloat. The sight tugged at KAMSI's heart. Without thinking of himself or the shadowy figure, he knelt down and carefully reached into the water. The bird's tiny wings flapped frantically, splashing water over KAMSI's hands. He gently scooped the bird and lifted it out of the current, holding it close to keep it calm. The bird looked up at him with wide, grateful eyes. Its chest heaved and it chirped softly, shaking the water from its feathers. KAMSI smiled and whispered, "It's okay. You're safe now." He watched as the bird flapped its wings and flew to a nearby branch, perching there as if watching him. KAMSI felt a small warmth in his chest. Helping the bird had been simple, yet it felt significant. He realized that the forest might be rewarding him for this act of kindness. The shadowy figure stepped aside, its form becoming clearer in the dim light. It was not frightening anymore but seemed more like a guardian watching over the river. The figure's lips curved into a gentle smile, and its eyes shone with approval. "You have acted with kindness and bravery," the figure said softly. "The forest rewards those who think of others before themselves. You may cross safely." KAMSI felt a wave of relief and gratitude. He had passed the test, not by showing strength or cleverness alone, but by helping a creature in need. He stepped onto the narrow path of stones and roots, carefully balancing himself as he crossed the sparkling river. Each step was deliberate. The stones were slippery and the current tried to pull his foot, but he focused on his balance and stayed calm. As he reached the other side, he looked back at the river. The sunlight had faded almost completely, leaving the forest in a soft twilight. The river sparkled faintly, and the bird he had saved chirped once before disappearing into the trees. KAMSI felt proud, but he also understood something important. Every action mattered, and even small acts of kindness could make a difference. Zina, the golden-eyed fox, stepped beside him. "You see, KAMSI," she said, "the forest does not reward selfishness or greed. It watches your heart. You could have crossed quickly and ignored the bird, but you chose to help. That choice is more important than any treasure or shortcut." KAMSI nodded. He felt he was learning the forest lessons one step at a time. Courage alone was not enough. It had to be paired with kindness and care. As they continued along the path, the forest became darker. The trees grew closer, and the sounds of distant animals echoed eerily through the thick undergrowth. KAMSI felt a shiver run down his spine, but he also felt stronger. He knew he had done the right thing, and that gave him courage. Every step felt heavier now but also more meaningful. The forest was challenging him, testing not just his body but his heart. Along the way, KAMSI noticed small signs of the forest's magic. A stream of glowing flowers lit the path, leading him forward. Strange shadows flickered among the trees, and he sometimes thought he saw eyes watching him from the darkness. Each time he reminded himself of Zina's words, "Think before you act. Be kind. Be brave. Keep your heart true." He repeated these words silently to himself, letting them guide his steps. The path soon led to a small wooden bridge. The planks were old and creaked under his weight, and vines hung from the sides, swaying gently in the wind. KAMSI paused for a moment. He remembered the river earlier and the shadowy figure who had watched him. He knew that each obstacle in the forest was a test, and he had to stay alert. With careful steps, he crossed the bridge, feeling the planks sway beneath him. When he reached the other side, he took a deep breath and smiled. "That was scary," he whispered to Zina. The fox shook her head slightly, her golden eyes gleaming in the dim light. "Fear is natural, KAMSI. The forest wants to see how you respond. You can be afraid and still do the right thing. Courage is not the absence of fear but acting well despite it." KAMSI nodded, feeling the truth of her words. He realized that the forest was teaching him more than how to move safely. It was teaching him how to think, how to care, and how to act with a good heart. Further along the path, KAMSI came across a fallen tree blocking the way. He could have jumped over it quickly, but he noticed that a small rabbit was trapped beneath the branches. The creature was frightened and could not move. KAMSI carefully lifted the branches, freeing the rabbit. It hopped a few steps, turned, and seemed to look at him as if saying thank you before disappearing into the bushes. KAMSI smiled. Another act of kindness, another lesson learned. He felt that the forest was guiding him, showing that every small decision mattered. As twilight turned to night, the forest grew quieter. The glowing map in KAMSI's pocket was now faint, lighting the way just enough for him to see the path ahead. Zina stayed close, her tail brushing his leg occasionally. Rest now, Kamsi, she said gently. The forest will bring new tests tomorrow and your heart will be challenged even more. You are learning and that is what matters. Remember, the forest rewards kindness, not selfishness. Kamsi nodded, feeling the wisdom in her words. He found a small clearing and sat down to rest. The river sparkled faintly nearby, and the sound of its flowing water was soothing. Kamsi thought about the day's journey, the sparkling river, the shadowy figure, the struggling bird, and the lessons he had learned. He realized that bravery was important, but it was not enough on its own. Kindness, thoughtfulness, and helping others were just as important. He felt proud of himself, but also determined to do even better in the days to come. As he lay down to rest for the night, Kamsi looked at the stars peeking through the trees. He whispered to himself, I will be brave. I will be kind. I will make the right choices. Kamsi had walked for hours through the twisting paths of the forest of good and evil. Each step had tested him in small ways, helping creatures, choosing carefully at crossroads, and acting with kindness when faced with fear or temptation. He was tired, but he felt stronger, braver, and wiser than when he had first entered. Zina, the golden-eyed fox, walked beside him, her eyes scanning the forest for hidden dangers. The boy knew that he had learned much already, but he also felt deep in his heart that the most important lesson was still ahead. The forest began to change as they approached a wider clearing. The trees here were enormous, their branches stretching high and wide like arms that held the sky. Light filtered through in golden beams, illuminating patches of moss and flowers in soft colors. At the center of the clearing, two paths appeared, side by side. One glowed with a gentle, warm light that seemed to hum with life. The other was dark, twisted, and shadowy, its path winding into dense trees where sunlight could not reach. Kamsi stopped and studied both paths carefully. His heart beat faster. The glowing path seemed safe and inviting, filled with warmth and light. The dark path looked mysterious, but he sensed danger in its shadows. He remembered all that Zina had taught him: courage, kindness, patience, and honesty. He also thought about the map in his pocket, which had guided him safely this far. For a moment he felt tempted by the dark path, wondering what secrets or treasures it might hide. He imagined gold, shiny stones, or magical objects waiting for him. Zina noticed his hesitation and spoke gently. Kamsi, the forest gives many choices. Some may seem tempting but are filled with danger. You must choose with your heart, not your desire for reward. Courage and wisdom are more valuable than treasure. Kamsi took a deep breath. He realized she was right. The dark path might hold riches, but it might also test him in ways he was not ready for. The glowing path, however, promised lessons and understanding. He wanted to learn, not just take. He stepped toward the glowing path, feeling the soft warmth under his feet. The light seemed to guide him, moving gently ahead as if inviting him forward. Zina walked beside him, silent now, watching carefully. The forest felt alive, humming with energy that Kamsi could almost hear in his chest. Every step he took seemed to make the light brighter, as if the forest approved of his choice. He felt a mix of relief and excitement, knowing that he had chosen wisely. As Kamsi walked, the path opened into a wide circle at the center of the forest. In the middle of the circle stood a magnificent tree. It was the largest tree Kamsi had ever seen, with thick, silver-bark trunks and leaves that shimmered in shades of gold and green. The branches stretched wide, and a soft light radiated from the tree itself, bathing the clearing in a warm, comforting glow. Kamsi felt awe in his heart. This was no ordinary tree, it was magical, alive, and full of wisdom. The tree spoke in a deep, gentle voice that resonated through the clearing. Kamsi, it said, you have reached the heart of the forest. Few find this place and fewer still do so with a heart that is true. Your courage, patience, and kindness have brought you here. Now you will learn the most important lessons of all: bravery, honesty, and friendship. Kamsi stepped closer, his eyes wide with wonder. He listened carefully, wanting to remember every word. Bravery, the tree continued, is not the absence of fear. It is the strength to act rightly even when you are afraid. You have shown bravery by walking into this forest, facing challenges, and helping those in need, even when you were uncertain. Never forget that true courage comes from doing what is right, not what is easy. Kamsi nodded, feeling the truth of the words. He remembered the river, the shadowy figure, and the bird he had saved. That had been an act of bravery, even though it had seemed simple at the time. Honesty, the tree said next, is the foundation of trust and wisdom. You have been honest with yourself and others. You did not take what was not yours. You made choices with care, not selfishness. Honesty will guide you through challenges that are harder than this forest. Always speak the truth even when it is difficult, and your heart will remain strong. KAMSI felt the weight of the lesson. He understood that honesty was not just about words, it was about actions, intentions, and the choices he made every day. Friendship, the tree said, is the bond that strengthens hearts and minds. You have helped others, small creatures, and even the forest itself. These acts of kindness show that you can be a true friend. Friends support each other, share challenges, and stand together. Never forget to care for others, for it is through friendship that courage and honesty grow stronger. KAMSI smiled. He thought of Xena, the fox, and the rabbit, the bird, and the small lessons he had learned along the way. He realized that friendship was not only about people, it was about caring, helping, and connecting with the world around him. As he absorbed the lessons, the tree's branches lowered slightly, brushing gently against him. The leaves whispered softly, filling him with warmth and understanding. KAMSI felt a deep peace in his heart. He had come seeking adventure, and he had found wisdom. The forest had challenged him, guided him, and taught him more than he could have imagined. Every choice he had made, every act of kindness, and every moment of courage had led him to this place. The sun, though mostly hidden by the thick forest canopy, cast a soft glow on the clearing, illuminating every detail of the magical tree. KAMSI reached out and touched the bark, feeling its energy flow into him. He felt stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever lay ahead. He knew that the forest would continue to test him, but now he understood how to meet those challenges, with bravery, honesty, and friendship guiding every step. Xena padded close to KAMSI, her golden eyes shining. "You have learned well," she said. "The forest is alive and its lessons are now part of you. Remember them always. Your journey does not end here. The forest will continue to guide you, but your choices will shape the path you take." KAMSI nodded, grateful for her guidance and proud of the lessons he had learned. He felt ready to continue his journey, confident in his heart and mind. The glowing path that had led him to the heart of the forest now began to shimmer more brightly, inviting him forward. KAMSI realized that the forest's heart was not a destination but a place of learning. Every step he would take from now on would carry the lessons of bravery, honesty, and friendship. He felt a new sense of purpose. His adventure was far from over, but he was ready to face it with courage and wisdom. As KAMSI left the clearing, the magical tree's voice followed him softly. "Go forward, KAMSI, and remember what you have learned. Your heart is strong. Your choices are important. The forest watches and guides you, but the courage, honesty, and kindness you carry within will always be your greatest strength." KAMSI smiled, feeling the truth of the words settle in his chest. He glanced at Xena, who nodded in approval, and together they continued along the glowing path, deeper into the mysteries of the forest. Night fell gently over the forest of good and evil, and the stars began to twinkle through the canopy. KAMSI stepped out of the forest of good and evil and into the familiar sunlight of his village. The air smelled of fresh grass and cooking fires, and he could hear the chatter of children playing near the mango tree. It was a sound he had missed more than he realized. 4 days he had been walking through the forest, learning, thinking, and facing challenges that tested his courage, honesty, and kindness. Now stepping back into his home he felt different, stronger, wiser, and full of new ideas he wanted to share. As KAMSI walked along the village paths, neighbors looked at him curiously. "KAMSI, you have been gone for days," called a friend named Amari. "Did you find the secrets of the forest?" KAMSI smiled, feeling both shy and proud. "I learned many things," he said. "It was not easy, but I am ready to tell you all." Children ran to him, eager to hear stories, while elders gathered quietly, interested in the lessons the boy had brought back from the magical forest. He began with the story of his journey to the forest's edge, explaining how he had found the glowing map near the stream. He told them about the sparkling rivers, the paths that split, and the small creatures he had helped along the way. His audience listened with wide eyes, imagining the magical forest as he described it. KAMSI told them about Xena, the golden-eyed fox, and how she had guided him, teaching him to watch carefully, think before acting, and help others whenever possible. Then he spoke about the tests he had faced. "At one river," he said, "a shadowy figure blocked the bridge. I saw a small bird struggling in the water and I helped it. That choice allowed me to cross safely. The forest rewards kindness and bravery, not selfishness." The children gasped. They could picture the sparkling river and the shadowy figure, and KAMSI's words made them feel the excitement and fear he had faced. The elders nodded knowingly, seeing that he had learned the true lesson of the forest. Courage alone was not enough, a good heart was essential. KAMSI continued, describing the moment he reached the heart of the forest. He explained how 2 paths appeared, one glowing and one dark, and how he had chosen the glowing path, seeking wisdom over treasure. The magical tree had spoken to him, teaching him about bravery, honesty, and friendship. KAMSI paused, looking at the eager faces around him. Bravery is not about not being afraid, he said. It is about doing the right thing even when you are scared. Honesty means telling the truth and doing the right thing even if it is hard. Friendship means caring for others, helping them, and being loyal. The children were silent for a moment, absorbing his words. Some nodded thoughtfully, while others whispered to each other about how they might show kindness or bravery in their own lives. KAMSI felt proud that he could share what he had learned. It was not just a story of adventure, it was a story that could help his friends and family become better, braver, and kinder people. He realized that the greatest treasure of the forest was not gold or jewels, it was wisdom and the knowledge of how to live a good life. The elders gathered around him, their faces full of respect and curiosity. One elder, a wise woman named Fola, spoke. KAMSI, you have done more than we ever expected. You have not only returned safely, but you have also brought the forest's lessons to us. Your bravery, honesty, and kindness are examples for all of us. KAMSI felt a warm glow in his heart. He had learned much, but he also realized that teaching others was just as important as learning himself. Sharing knowledge made it stronger and more meaningful. KAMSI began to give advice to the children, using simple examples from his journey. If you see someone struggling, he said, help them. It might seem small, but it matters. If you face a scary challenge, take a deep breath and think before you act. Courage is in trying, not in never being afraid. And always be honest. Lies can make problems bigger, but truth can make you strong. The children listened intently. Some practiced helping each other, while others nodded, understanding for the first time how important their choices were. As the day went on, KAMSI walked through the village, sharing more lessons. He told stories of the magical tree, the glowing paths, and the creatures he had helped. The villagers began to notice that his words were changing the way people thought and acted. Children helped one another more often, elders smiled at the bravery in the children's hearts, and friends began to work together more closely. KAMSI saw that his adventure in the forest had not only changed him but was starting to change the village as well. In the evenings, KAMSI would sit under the mango tree with the other children. They would ask questions about the forest, about Zina, and about the magical tree. He would answer with patience, telling them that the forest was alive and always watching, but that it guided those who acted with a good heart. He reminded them that bravery, honesty, and friendship were lessons not just for the forest but for everyday life. Slowly, the children began to understand that their choices mattered, and that being kind and truthful made life better for everyone. KAMSI also reflected on his own journey. He realized that the forest would always be a part of him. Whenever he faced a difficult decision, he could remember the glowing path, the bird he saved, and the lessons from the magical tree. The forest's wisdom was now in his heart, guiding him like a gentle voice reminding him to act with courage, honesty, and care. Even though he was back in the village, the lessons of the forest felt alive in every step he took. As days passed, KAMSI became a teacher in his own way. The other children followed his example, learning to be brave, to tell the truth, and to help one another. Even the adults noticed the change, smiling at the new kindness and courage in the younger generation. KAMSI knew that his adventure had not only taught him about the forest but also about the power of sharing knowledge. Lessons grow stronger when they are passed on, and he felt proud to see his village becoming wiser and kinder. One afternoon, KAMSI walked to the edge of the village where the forest began. He looked back at the path he had traveled and felt a mix of pride and gratitude. The forest had tested him, challenged him, and taught him what truly mattered. It had given him courage, honesty, and friendship. And now, by sharing these lessons, he was spreading the magic of the forest to everyone around him. He knew the forest would always guide him, even if he did not see its glowing paths or magical creatures again. The villagers came to respect KAMSI not just for his bravery in entering the forest, but for the wisdom he shared afterward. The children listened to him, the elders nodded at his insights, and families began teaching one another the values KAMSI had learned. Stories of his adventure traveled from house to house, inspiring everyone. KAMSI realized that being a hero was not only about facing danger, it was also about helping others learn, grow, and act with kindness. At night, when the village was quiet and stars filled the sky, KAMSI would sit under the mango tree and think about his journey. He remembered the sparkling river, the shadowy figure, the golden-eyed fox, and the magical tree. He remembered every lesson, every act of kindness, and every choice he had made. And he knew that he would carry these lessons for the rest of his life, sharing them whenever he could. His adventure in the forest of good and evil had changed him forever, and he was grateful for it. KAMSI understood that courage, honesty and friendship were not just lessons for the forest, they were lessons for life. He felt proud to share them with his friends, his family and his village. Every time a child helped another or an elder told the truth, or friends stood together, he knew that the forest's magic was alive in the village. The lessons he had learned had become part of the people around him, spreading goodness and strength far beyond what he could see. In time, KAMSI became known as a hero in his village, not because he had faced danger alone, but because he had shared the lessons of the forest with everyone. The children looked up to him, the elders admired him, and the village grew stronger and kinder. KAMSI had discovered the true magic of the forest of good and evil, the magic of a good heart and the power of sharing what you have learned. And so, KAMSI's story became part of the village's history. His bravery, honesty and friendship inspired generations. The forest might have remained mysterious to others, but its lessons lived on in every act of kindness, every courageous choice, and every moment of honesty in the village. KAMSI knew the forest would always guide him, even from afar, and he carried its wisdom in his heart forever.